Lindsay Clancy trial, a high-profile case trending as the major topic of discussion across social media platforms. It is about a crazy mother who is facing time for ending the lives of her 3 small children in 2023 by strangulating them with exercise equipment. And then she attempted to commit suicide by jumping from a second-story window. Now, this case is spreading like wildfire, but it has revealed a mass psychosis across the country with women. Now, is it because this is an unusual crime, because the mother may be innocent, or is it something about a mother killing her own children that causes society to search for an explanation beyond the crime? Because honestly, this is not the first time America has faced a case like this, and Lindsay Clancy is not the first mother to become the center of the national debate about it. So what makes this case different? Because right now, we are in a time that the public does not have to wait for newspapers, articles, videos to decide on what story they would like to hear. Millions of people can watch the case unfold, come to their own conclusions. They examine the evidence on their own, create their own theories, defend the accuse other people, build entire communities around their interpretations of what they think happened. And as today, the closing arguments are scheduled, so the courtroom is now preparing for the jury's decision. But what bothers me the most about this topic is outside the courtroom, a whole different trial took place of public opinion with many female degenerates who believe her medications, her husband, her children, anything but her, contributed to what happened. Now, these theories have spread despite the fact that both the prosecution side and the defense agree that Lindsay killed her children, and the dispute in this case is over her mental state and criminal responsibility for it. Just take a look.
This is my goddamn opinion, and we're not gonna sit here and act like her husband should not be prime suspect number 1. Because to really think that she would kill her children and leave this man alive? Are we fucking serious? And no, I do not stand with baby killers by any means, but we really need to take a look at this goddamn case. Because 3 kids, wife was unconscious, and you're found over your wife's body when the EMT arrives? And we're not even gonna get into the trips and the $1.2 million.
I want you to know that I believe you. From my perspective, I believe that you were over-functioning throughout your entire postpartum period. I am blown away by how hard you were working to get better, while also working as a mom. You have galvanized us women in a really powerful way. You showed all of us that we can be honest and we can be real about what we experience as mothers. So thank you, and I hope that you're seeing our support, because we believe you, and we are proud of how hard you advocated and how hard you tried for yourself. And we know you miss those babies every day.
So many people that haven't even watched this trial or know nothing about it that are commenting on my pages on Instagram and on Facebook. Mostly men that are calling me crazy and I'm defending a murderer. And no, I'm not defending Patrick. I'm actually on Lindsay's side because I don't think she did this, and that is my opinion, and I'm allowed to have that. When I very first heard about this case, I thought, wow, how could a woman do this to her babies? And then I saw Patrick get on the stand, and that's all it took for me. Literally 1 second of just looking at his eyes and hearing him speak, I started paying attention and thinking, like, what's going on here?
To say that I've been following this Lindsay Clancy trial, especially as a mother of 2 who dealt with a lot of postpartum mental illness, and just following all their birth charts and birthdays and zodiac signs. He did it. He's a Gemini man. His birthday is June 15th. I'm a Gemini woman. My birthday is June 14th. Let me give you another example of who a Gemini man is. Also birthday June 14th. Men and women are different. Keep that in mind. Please don't judge me. Donald Trump.
Attorney, and I just spent the last few days watching the Lindsay Clancy case. And after watching all these comments and videos on TikTok, I felt like I had to come and say this. Yes, I suspect that Big Red, Kevin Reddington, is going to give a not guilty beyond a reasonable doubt argument tomorrow in his closing. A lot of people are saying that he can't do that because they're not going to give the Bowden instruction about police investigation, etc. But it doesn't matter. He can still stand up, and it sounds like he's going to stand up and say, look, you still have to find beyond a reasonable doubt that Lindsay Clancy committed these offenses. And the government did not prove that. And
coming to an end. We are getting ready for the jury to deliberate. And the one thing I can get out of this entire trial is that this whole case was based on one person's hearsay. Every witness, every testimony, everything we've heard has one thing in common. And that's exactly who told them what happened. We are believing one person about this entire case. The same person was cleared under 24 hours of the investigation. The same person is the one who told Lindsay what she did that night.
Not only that, you have hundreds of unstable creatures gathered outside the courthouse, weathered in pink and carrying messages like she needed help, believe her, peace for Lindsay, and even TikTok trends with crazy mothers as well that believe they are suffering from the same, with hashtags of same Lindsay, same.
Pink cheered the accused mom as she arrived in a police caravan for her murder trial. Supporters ran across the field to greet Lindsay. Some came with their babies. They held up heart hands during a silent rally for the mom who strangled her 3 young children.
And that message is that it should not take tragedy for people to start paying attention to mental health. It is true.
Yeah, we had hundreds of people here at the courthouse today, women and men dressed in pink in support of Lindsay and to raise awareness for postpartum depression, postpartum psychosis, and mental health crisis all over the world.
The intention of gathering today was strictly to show our support. We wanted Lindsay, her legal team, and the public to know that regardless of what happened in that house in January of 2023, we understand that Lindsay asked for help and it was not given. And as women, we understand that that was a failure, and regardless, she deserved better.
As people and think about them as ceramic vases for just 1 second for me, okay? I'm a forensic scientist and a former CSI. There was a lot of confusion about the actual issue in the Lindsay Clancy case. The issue is whether she was in psychosis at the moment that she killed her children, which would make her not criminally responsible. Basically, she would go to a psych hospital instead of a prison. Psychosis can be difficult to understand. So to help me make this point, I want you to think of these kids as if they were very expensive ceramic vases in a museum.
Overwhelmed, trying to take care of the kids. I'm drowning every day. I feel guilty that I'm spending my family's money and not making any. I feel like I spend way too much. She wrote that. I'm completely.
Now, these reactions tell a lot about where our society is at, and how long we have been aiding and abetting evil. Because when a mother commits the most extreme crime against her children, the discussion did not stop at the crime and her doing it. This discussion shifted to the woman's emotional state and who else could have done this beside her. Everyone on TikTok is questioning what she's feeling, what happened to her, what medication was she taking, what happened in that marriage, what did the doctors give her, what did the husband do, what did the family know? And eventually that question becomes, who failed this murderous woman? Now you can see how the victims are faded away and the culprit is now the victim. That gains the sympathy necessary for the actual victim, even though they are the ones that harmed them. And when you look beyond this case, there has been many mothers who killed their children throughout American history. It's just the explanations have changed. The terminology has changed. The psychiatric assistants came abroad and pushed a new narrative. And once you research this all, you can see that the behavior itself is not new. One of the earliest recorded cases, it was even in colonial America, involved Dorothy Tablai. In 1637, she was executed in Massachusetts after being convicted of killing her 3-year-old daughter. Her case occurred in a society that understood these mental derangements was sort of like a spiritual issue, like witchcraft, as she later confessed, claiming God had told her to do so to spare the child's future suffering. We even have another case in 1888 involving a woman named Sarah Jane Whiteland who poisoned her entire family, husband and children, for life insurance. It was one of the first cases where a female doctor who ran an asylum testified for the defense on the women's mental state, Dr. Bennett. She proposed a theory of insanity among women with reproduction derangements. But due to this being a time where murdering your family was considered unconscionable, Miss Whiting was convicted and sentenced to death. Of course, Dr. Bennett took on a campaign for women to claim the actions are more than a mental illness, but was unsuccessful. Following Sarah's hanging in 1889. Centuries later, cases became increasingly medical due to this idea, and eventually America encounters one of the most infamous cases in the modern era. Andrea Yates in 2001 drowned all 5 of her children in a bathtub of her Houston home. Her children ranged from 6 months to 7 years old. Yates had a documented history of this psychiatric problem that Dr. Bennett has created, including depression and psychosis, and had previously received psychiatric treatment, and her first trial resulted in this capital murder conviction. Now, that conviction was later overturned after the prosecution psychiatric expert gave this testimony involving a Law and Order episode that was non-existent, and she was rewarded a secondary trial. In 2006, Yates was found not guilty by reason of insanity. Due to that, she was committed to a psychiatric hospital, and this case became one of the major reference points in the discussion of this maternal violence and postpartum psychosis. Now, when a mother kills her children, people increasingly ask whether she's mentally ill instead of morally wicked. And having these psychiatric diagnoses now asks the question whether someone even understood the actions when they murder their children, or whether the law should hold them responsible. Even if we look at another case, Alicia Green, 2007, she was accused of setting her 3 daughters on fire in Texas after dousing them with gasoline. Her 3-year-old daughter died from her injuries. The other 2 daughters survived. Green had reportedly been diagnosed with this bipolar disorder and has stopped taking her medication. There was also contemporary reportings where Green told an officer that she had burned the children down because she was angry at her husband. Now, this woman eventually pleaded guilty to capital murder and 2 counts of injury to the child, and she received life imprisonment without parole for the capital murder conviction. So the legal outcome was not an insanity acquittal in this case. She actually received punishment. Then, of course, we have 2020, one of the most extreme examples of Arana Myers of West Virginia, who killed 5 of her children. 3 of them were her biological children, 2 of them were her husband's children. She shot them with a shotgun, set the house on fire, and then killed herself. Then, if y'all can all remember a case that took place in Louisiana, this was Janae Pretaclaus. I spoke about this case in a video I mentioned years ago called The Sinister State of Modern Women. Now, if you remember, this was in August 2022. Pretaclaus was involved in a custody dispute with her father of her children, Jermaine Roberts. She attacked her 2 children with a knife, and the daughter died. The son survived. According to the arrest warrant reported by local news, Pretaclaus contacted Roberts during the incident and showed him the children's injuries through FaceTime. She later appeared on social media and blamed Roberts for what had happened.
My children is dead. I'm done. I'm done with life. And it's all Jermaine's fault. It's always Jermaine's fault. I'm done. I'm killing myself. I'm done.
After her arrest, psychiatric evaluations became part of her case, of course, and doctors reports that she has hallucinations, symptoms of serious mental illness, and the mother eventually enters the plea of not guilty by reason of insanity. Now, there's many other cases that I haven't mentioned that you can see in my prior video 4 years ago, and there's many more that's out that you can research. But to fast forward, we can arrive at this Lindsay Clancy situation. We can see how this case is just like the others. It contains many of the same elements we've seen before, heard before, watched before. Now, what makes this case a major topic is that it drew this divide ever since politics, and a lot of people that see this divide and see how sick society has become Because Lindsay Clancy is only an example of what is really going on in the world today. Modern society has become increasingly focused on the emotional experience of every crime than the actual crime itself. You can hear that feelings should be validated, personal experience should be believed, and emotional pain should be understood. The individual circumstances should be examined before we make judgment. And the conversation instantaneously moved from how dare this mother kill her children to what happened to this mother and who did it to her. And this is why it is a major discussion and topic right now on social media. Because you can honestly see that we have generations of women for a very long time that chose to believe more in their own self-importance, narcissism, material than what really matters and what only we as women are capable of doing and supposed to protect. To be stand-up mothers, have well-rounded children, create generations that are well-guided. But when these responsibilities become secondary to individual emotion, desire, status, materialism, personal validation, the consequences don't remain confined to the individual woman. No, it affects communities, it affects our culture, and it affects society as a whole. Because at what point does society stop explaining behavior and start demanding accountability for it? This is the same society that has expanded women's freedoms, increasingly so, that emphasize this emotional expression, this personal fulfillment, this individual identity, this self-inflicted victimhood. Women were actually given this greater freedom to choose legal independence, economic independence, political power, the right to vote. And where society has headed with all of this is individual emotion, individual desire, status, materialism, personal validation. I honestly think the most significant change that happened in American history was the 19th Amendment. And I think that is the starting point of the collapse. Because ever since then, we have treated the female political participation as this social progress, but so far this major decision enforced only by a few women has done no good and caused a major shift in how our world is that our children will inherit. We gave a group that is supposed to remain focused on the generations we create the right to have authority and power. And this group was never taught how to govern the emotions behind these choices. They were never taught restraint. They were never taught discipline. They were never taught differences between what feels right and what is right. So honestly, ask yourself, what happens when a society gives enormous power to people who have never been taught how to govern themselves? We have gotten to a point that we are a population highly influenced by emotion, social pressure, relationships, and the opinions of other people around us. When you combine that with this unrestricted freedom that we have given, you don't produce greater wisdom. Women are easily influenced by admirations of people, social little groups and networks, the culture around them, what they see online, what makes them feel good and accepted. And you can honestly see this in real time. The worst thing that happened was to give a woman a camera. Thousands of women can be shown the same idea every day because they like to hear their own echo chambers and they're given the same emotional narrative, and suddenly this emotional reaction becomes a collective. And then women endlessly repeat this as a conclusion, outrage, defenses. That repetition gets masqueraded as an independent thought. Now they think that they're actually thinking from themselves. So much so that women have pushed focus on understanding the murderous woman who committed the act than actually the children whose lives were taken. Children, which is the sacred responsibility of motherhood, came actually secondary to the individual woman now, or non-existent at all. The child can actually become revenge, a currency for them, or just sacrificial rather than a life that she was responsible for protecting and nurturing. The family dynamic is now a joke. It became something only to accommodate the wife rather than something the wife is expected to sacrifice for. And the more that we allow this to go on, the more they continue to find another explanation, another diagnosis, another circumstance, another person to blame.
And it's all Jermaine's fault. It's always Jermaine's fault.
And we are at this ultimate collapse. I think it's time to enforce some consequences here. I think repealing a right that women should have never been given in the first place will be a start. And I think capital punishment for all those who have done this as well. Because if a society is going to call itself civilized, then it has to decide what it considers sacred, what they consider important. And if we cannot agree that a child's life is sacred and important, and that deliberately destroying that life carries the highest possible consequence, then what exactly are we protecting? There has to be something that stands above this personal desire and want and fantasy realm everybody wants to live in. Something that cannot be purchased. Something that cannot be sold. Something that cannot be explained away. Something that cannot be surrendered. Because the individual no longer wants the responsibility that came with it. A child's life should be one of those things. And our children learn what society considers valuable by how the society protects. What is it that the society protects? It's how children learn what is valuable in the world. If every violation of responsibility is met with another excuse, another diagnosis, another person to blame, but the actual person that did it, the responsibility itself begins to lose its meaning. And once those principles begin to disappear, the damage is shown in how society is today. And before society asked, what am I entitled to? What do I want? It had to ask, what am I responsible for? What must I protect? But no. Marriage is now negotiable. Family is optional. Parenthood is something to experience on individual terms. Authority becomes something to challenge rather than respect. And eventually, responsibility itself can become conditional. But what do y'all think? Don't forget to like, comment, share, subscribe to my channel. Click the notification bell to alert you for all my new videos. I want to thank you all who have stuck around and continued with great patience to wait for my content. I truly love you all. And as always, I truly thank you all for watching.